Well, hello, everyone, and thank you for attending our webinar today. The goal of today's session is to speak about the role of AI-powered technologies and helping to find missing children. And my name is Kris Greiner. I'm the Vice President of Sales for Skyla. We develop AI-powered video analytics. And with me today is Dr. Melanie, who is the co-founder and Vice President of Global Technology Innovations at the SWAT League. So hello, Dr. Mel.
Hi, Kris. How are you?
Doing well, thanks.
Good, good.
So I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, so for the benefit of everybody attending, can you maybe tell us who SWAT is and what you do as an organization and your goals?
Absolutely. We are a 501c3. We gained our 501c3 status in August of 2019. And we decided on our name, the Sports World Against Trafficking League, because we wanted to utilize a platform and the influence of the sporting industry, the professional sports industry across the board, all the sports, in an effort to raise awareness around human trafficking and to basically develop relationships within the sporting industry and with non-professionals, coaches, owners, businesses around the sport leagues, and use their involvement and their influence alongside that to help other NGOs, non-government organizations, and to basically gain an audience of people that generally attend or watch sports itself, so that we could empower them as well, enlighten them, educate them around what is trafficking, how does it occur, when does it occur, what does it look like, and then really allow them to, let that sink into their hearts, and then engage other people around them to raise awareness around what it is, what it looks like, how to report it, when to report it. And that way we could potentially see the numbers decrease over time through our efforts. And then we also created a roundtable where all these organizations could come together and help resource one another, because some organizations are really strong at certain aspects and then they're weaker in other aspects. And so our thought was, well, if we bring them to the round table, everybody provides a strength, and where you have a weakness, we can all band together. And so that's really our mission and our strategy in one fell swoop there.
Great. And well, thanks for telling us about SWAT. And I'll mention who Skyla is. Skyla is a software company. We develop AI-powered video analytics for real-time threat detection. So what that means is we are monitoring cameras, existing cameras, adding intelligence to them, and we can watch for threats. So we can watch for objects, actions, and behavior anomalies. So in real time, the AI watches these camera feeds, and we can identify things like guns, knives, bites, intruders, bags left behind, slip and falls, a whole number of things. And one of the things that we can do in there included is facial recognition, and as well as person tracking and person search. There are two different technologies. The person search will track a person based on their physical appearance without knowing who they are. Basically, the AI watches, looks through that camera, just like the eye looks and sees a human, and your brain analyzes it and remembers what somebody looks like. That's what Skyla can do. So our AI uses the camera, a camera that's a surveillance camera that's already in place for an organization, and we process that image, we analyze it, and we remember what a person looks like. And everybody that steps foot in front of those cameras, we can track a person from as they move about a facility or through an organization. So things like an active shooter, for example, once we identify them as being that active shooter, we can track that person as they go from camera to camera to camera throughout that campus or that facility and give constant updates to security and police. Now, that same technology is not being used with facial recognition. We have a very good facial recognition module that we use, and the solution goes out and does exactly what everybody knows facial rec does. We go out, we identify a person based on their points, their target points, their uniqueness. When we've trained our AI to be very ethical and in the use of our AI, and those two technologies in tracking a person can be used independently or they can be used together for enhanced accuracy. And those types of things are being used at fairs, at professional sporting events, professional to track bad guys. But that same technology can be used in a different manner. And just like we're tracking bad guys, we can use it to find missing children or missing people, for example. So if we're at a large fair or an outdoor event or a large concert venue or sporting event or literally anywhere, you can take a person or a missing child's image, you can upload that into Skyla, and we can go out and turn every camera on the system and tell every camera on the system to go out and look for that missing child or that missing person. And again, it can do it one of two different ways. It can either do it on the physical appearance, or we can do it based on the facial recognition. And so the technology, that is one way that AI can be used to help in the efforts to find missing, exploited children, to find anybody that is, every camera is an additional set of eyes. And so those are some of the things that can be used in today's world as technology advances to help zero in and find some of these missing kids.
Exactly. Next slide, please. So I thought that I would give kind of an overview of the business of modern day slavery, just to give you guys just kind of a picture in your head for the amount of money that this engine of sorts brings about every year. I made this slide as I was finishing my doctorate degree, and for all of the research that we did in 2019, these numbers are almost the same at this point. So we're still pushing estimates, but understand that number could very well be much higher than it is, or it could be lower. But as it says on here, what we've done was we took the 40 million victims that is reported across the board as an estimate, and we went into the different regions of the world globally and just sort of ferreted out how much money, how many victims, and what does that look like. And so for the United States, as the example, we came up with information regarding the fact that there's probably an estimated 1.5 million victims of trafficking within the United States developed areas, and the EU. And that comes out to about $46.9 billion in an economic engine, and that runs nearly 34.8, almost 35, per victim, 35,000 per victim. So that gives you an idea of, how much money comes from this particular economic engine. It's approximately $150 billion each year in profit. which if you break that down further, the sexual exploitation of victims runs around $99 billion. And then there are other avenues of slavery, like labor slavery, and there are others like domestic servitude as another example. So there's just huge amounts of money that are spent, and stopping, dismantling this particular economic engine is not an easy feat by any means. Next slide, please. So I've already talked a little bit about our mission, and our strategy is just simply, it's four-pronged really, to enlighten people around what is human trafficking, where does it occur, how does it occur, to educate them on this, then to engage them to become an advocate, an abolitionist, to train others around them, and to bring awareness themselves, which in essence gives them a voice, it empowers them, and then we can turn around and we can eradicate slavery, human trafficking, just, you know, the things that that aren't right in this world with regard to this particular criminal industry. Next slide. So we have at SWAT League, we have a 3-phase strategy, and we are working in our first phase currently. That requires the makeup of one of our technology pieces, which I'm going to talk to you about today. And then we have other software programs that are in the works at the moment. Our commitment from SWAT League is that we will continue raising awareness, and we will ensure comprehensive support for the NGOs, for our partners, and for the people that we are working closely with. Next slide. And so how do we dismantle trafficking? And I've discussed a little bit about that as well, which is to educate, engage, and empower. And our plan is mostly prevention at this point, with the technology piece that I'm going to talk to you about just briefly. So next slide. So in phase 1, we have worked with Skyla, and we have developed what we call the Bluebee Family Safety Code. The Family Safety Code is a very simple piece of AI, but at the same time, it's extremely powerful. It's a code that every person on the face of the globe can have, and it doesn't duplicate. So that's the wonderful piece about that. It has been set into the school curriculum for free international, and their Say Something assemblies. And it has been set to go out into the school systems in November, December timeframe of this year. That is 35,000 schools that the Say Something assemblies go and speak around the country to. And they will be offering the Family Safety Code for free to the school systems as they go out and do their curriculum. And then this particular code sets the stage for our next 2 phases of technology to come out later. Next slide. So I wanted to take just a couple of slides and tell you about what we're doing as boots on the ground. I volunteer. I am a former veteran Army, and I was trained in Intel. And so we have partnered with a few different organizations where I work as an analyst on a volunteer basis. Class Kids, the Missing and Exploited Children Foundation, and Free International, which I already briefly mentioned, and then Called to Rescue are the three organizations that I volunteer with. Call to Rescue specifically is a 501c3 as well. It is veteran owned, and we are all volunteers. We have quite a large group of law enforcement and retired military, and we work to search for endangered or missing kids, women and children, and boys as well. We work undercover for ICAC, and then we also and that's the crimes against children, internet crimes against children operations. And then we also do target packages against human trafficking operations as well. Next slide. So the mission profile for Call to Rescue itself and Class Kids is a little more in depth. Class Kids is search and rescue. They are national organization. So there's a more in-depth group within them, but Call to Rescue is where our case management occurs. And these are the different areas that we work in case management that are all AI driven. So that's the wonderful piece about being an analyst and helping law enforcement and other organizations do the things that they need to do. Next slide. And then I thought it would be good to give you a perspective of which I'm going to give you the 2020 year in review. And then I have a couple of dates for 2021 as well. In 2020, which is during COVID, of course, we actually assisted in locating 34 missing and trafficked teenagers and 15 adults during some operations that were multi-state and multi-agency. We also used our high-risk endangered missing unit and located 36 other missing children. Those resulted in a federal human trafficking case, 4 state human trafficking charges, 8 charges against adults for child sex abuse, and 5 placements of children in safe houses. And we did this through intel analysis and with our digital exploitation unit. And so that all resulted in 4 felony arrests, 3 misdemeanors, and 20 intelligence leads for online child enticement as well. So, you know, that's an idea of the type of expertise that we're looking at within all of the different people that work with us and with the types of AI that we do use. And then in the 2021 year so far, we have had 80 total cases. 12 of those are open consultation cases, where 4 cases we still have open as of a month ago. We've had 6 human trafficking cases, 41 cases out of the big search, which is in Las Vegas each year during the same time as the Super Bowl is, which incidentally I did not mention earlier, but one of the things that we had seen within the professional sports arena is that the numbers of missing and exploited children rise during big sporting events. And so we have spent, or Class Kids and Pre-International have spent a few years working to find and find and help missing and exploited kids during the Super Bowl each year. And that's not just in the area where the Super Bowl happens to be, but it also occurs in much higher numbers around places like Las Vegas. And so that's something that we do every year. Then we've also had very recently in Orlando, we spent an entire week there working alongside law enforcement in Orlando with Call to Rescue and with class kids. And we brought home 15 out of 26 children. I'm sorry, 12 out of 26 children. And so those kids have gone back to their foster homes, or they are getting the help that they need through law enforcement and the Department of Family Services there. So, you know, it's incredibly important to partner and work, you know, together to help make a difference in this crime. Next slide. All right, that is going to be it for me. And Kris, if you want to go from here.
Sure. Wow, you guys are doing some incredible work at SWAT League.
Thank you.
So
Well,
fantastic.
This is the partnerships, the collaborations of other people, you know, working together. And so I can't express that enough. And so it's been
It's really important to bring in the awareness to what's actually going on in the world. Yeah. You know, as we're making advances in technology, we can use that technology for good to help, you know, find those missing children. And you know, by doing that, we can use technology that, you know, new technology that's been developed, such as Skyla. I mentioned a little bit earlier in the broadcast that Skyla is a AI powered threat detection solution. So we're monitoring video streams in real time on existing cameras that are already in place. We watch for those objects, actions, behaviors, and then when we see something that the AI is told to watch for, that's when we trigger an alert, to a real-time alert to a human. And we say to the human, we ask them to either take action on it or ignore it. You know, is this the person that we're looking for, or is this not? Is this, you know, we think we just saw a gun, and do you think this is a gun? And do you want to take action on that? So historically, the camera systems or surveillance systems that literally everybody in the world have been a reactive approach. Something bad happens, you go back, you check the video, and you say, yep, this is the bad guy, this is when it happened, and you have that for forensic purposes. But Skyla, we add intelligence to that surveillance system, and we turn it into a proactive. So instead of going back and looking for a person or a child or a gun or a threat that happened, you know, days ago, hours ago, weeks ago, whatever, we're monitoring, and we, using the system, we tell everyone in real time that, hey, we just saw a gun here, we just saw this missing child here, or we just saw this person that you told us to watch for. We think we found them. And so then you can go over, take action, and either, you know, mitigate the threat or go rescue that missing child. So next slide, please. So Skyla, you know, AI, there's a lot of discussions about AI in the world and how it's going to take over the planet, how it's going to, you know, being used for bad. It's Big Brother, it's watching people. Well, there are unethical actors out there. Skyla is not one of those. Skyla has trained our AI for ethical purposes. We've trained it to when we're watching for a human, we're literally watching for a human. We do not train our AI to identify sex. We do not train it to identify race or gender or ethnicities. We literally are watching for specific humans, and either human intruders or human intruders with guns, or bad guys, or a specific person that we're told to watch for. You know, a missing, you know, that missing child, or that person who has made a threat against an organization, you know, and is on their be on the lookout or BOLO list. And so we we can watch and identify that whenever we see that. So next slide, please. Some of the solutions or industries that Skyla is active in is, COVID-19 compliance. We can use your existing security systems to help identify and mitigate the spread of COVID in a variety of different ways. Retail suites, whether that's for loss prevention or to protect the employees and the store associates. Industrial safety, make sure that people are actually wearing their personal protection equipment like helmets and goggles and safety vests. Physical security, healthcare, hospitals are extremely dangerous places, people coming in and out all the time. It's a high violence workplace. Schools, we all know about schools. And everything that's in the news over these last several years with gun violence. Sports arenas always have a challenge. Fairs, trade shows, concerts, sports security, customs. There's any number of ways that AI can be used to help keep our world more safe. So next slide, please. Some of the different things that Skyla is capable of is object detections, whether that is guns, knives, rifles, shotguns. In fact, we're so accurate in our AI, we can tell the difference between a rifle and a shotgun. We measure the degree of aggressiveness. So if a police officer has a weapon holstered, we ignore it. But the second somebody's hand touches it, then we get excited and we'll trigger that alert and let a human take action on that. We can do different things for COVID, for intrusion detection perimeters. When we are identifying a person or an intruder detection, historically, a lot of the analytics are built into cameras. And so you're limited to the processing power of that camera. You're limited to the software version of that camera. So we call those like the DVD of analytics. You get what you get. It's the same thing over and over and over. Never gets any better. But with Skyla, we call ourselves the Netflix of analytics because we analyze all that video on GPUs on servers because we're a server-based subscription service. And when we analyze that in real time, it's always the most latest and greatest, the most current updates, updated version, the most updated learning. So you always have the most updated version of Skyla. And we are a true deep learning neural network. We're not just doing rules or object-based, rules-based detections. We're like a human for an embedded camera analytic. It might detect a human, but as soon as that human gets on all fours and starts crawling around, it's going to get confused and think it's an animal. Where with Skyla, we look at it and we're analyzing, true computer vision. We're looking at that and we say, okay, that's a human, and now that human's on all fours. We don't make the mistake that it's an animal. So we're extremely more accurate than anything that's embedded. Anomaly detections, things like fire, smoke, fights, anything that's abnormal behavior. Skyla can learn and pick out the people that are doing something differently than what everybody else is actually doing. And these are some of the things that we can train the system for to help find, in a trafficking world. If we're at a large sporting event and maybe that person who is exploiting the children are looking to apprehend, abduct, or solicit their child out, we watch for that behavior. If somebody's loitering too long, or they have a certain number of people, or they're acting differently than what normal people would do. So there's a lot of ways that the AI can be trained to help watch and detect, bad behavior, even without doing facial recognition or person tracking. Other things, we do that object tracking. I mentioned on that a little bit earlier. If we have a specific, like a vehicle, for example, and you want to track a vehicle from camera to camera, or that human, and we don't know who they are, in a privacy world, person search, facial recognition, it's all, can be used to find that bad guy or that missing person. And then one thing that is unique about Skyla is we work with moving backgrounds. So pan tilt zoom cameras on drones, on dash cams, on body cams. We're even used on helicopters to search for people, and specifically even people with guns. So next slide, please. And just again, quick analyze, just like your eye sees something and your brain analyzes it, that's what Skyla does. The camera is the eye, Skyla is the brain. We analyze it, we identify, and then we send the alerts to either dashboards, to mobile apps, iOS, Android, emails, text, integrate with all the different VMSs that are out there, Milestone, Genetec, Exact, all of the major ones, and continuing to add. Next slide, please. The missing person search, we can be used for body cameras. If we organize, you have big searches like you mentioned, we can work with local law enforcement. We can work with organizations, with sports arenas, anybody that wants to participate in this and cooperate and make their cameras available to us. We can literally add our server, just like you would take a television, a dumb TV, add a Roku stick to it. Now you just made it a smart TV. Well, that's what we can do with Skyla. You have a security system that just sits there and records, 99% of that video is never viewed. And if you do want to view it, it's very time intensive. You have to sit and relive history again. But with Skyla, it can go out and turn that into the proactive. So you don't have to go back and monitor everything forensically. You can get notified in real time. So next slide, please. So how our missing person search would work, or is you literally can take a photo of that child. And if we're at a fair, for example, or a large venue, and somebody doesn't want their child to go missing, the parent can snap multiple photos of their child that day. So we know what they're wearing that day, because a lot of the person search is based on their physical appearance. So that parent, before you go out into a crowd, you take a front shot of the child, a side shot, a back shot, from the left, from the right, from the top, from all different angles. You can't have too many photos. And then if that child ever goes missing, you send that photo to security or police. You can input that into Skyla. We access, with that organization's cooperation, right? We can access their existing cameras and add that server to it and make it smart, and input that child. And now every camera that's part of the Skyla system goes out and is an additional set of eyes watching for that missing child or that person of interest or that potential threat. And, as we see people that we think are resemble or a match, we'll send that to security or police, and then the security or police will look at that and either identify, yes, that is truly the person we're looking at, or there was a close match and somebody that looks similar. And we can set the degree of accuracy or how tight we want to zero in on what a match is. So next slide, please. We're working with organizations all over the world. Skyla is a newer startup just in the last 3 years. And just because we are such an industry disrupting technology right now, there's some really big names that have adopted us. And, whether that's in the hospital space, whether that's in the K-12 space, whether that is manufacturing, airports, professional sports, whether that's, Major League Baseball, and different, and different law enforcement organizations, like sheriffs and police departments, and private security. Our mission as a company is to empower private security and public security with those next generation AI tools that otherwise they couldn't afford, in previous years. So the technology that we're using can be used, adapted for a lot of different ways. And at the same time, we're looking for bad guys. We can reach out, we can look for missing children. And, we're not logging, storing, or recording. So, a lot of people say, I have privacy concerns. We don't want Big Brother watching us, or we don't want to be used for marketing purposes or have my information sold. That's not what Skyla does. We are literally replacing a human watching camera with the AI. And we just watch for that object, that action, or that anomaly, or that person that you told us to watch for that's either missing or a potential threat. And then when we think we see that threat or that anomaly or action, that's when we trigger it to a human and say, okay, now you guys take over. and stream live. We just flagged you of this real-time proactive alert. So a real quick overview, that is who Skyla is and what we do. And the fact that we get to partner with SWAT and we get to help you in your efforts and help find some of these missing and exploited children, it's just incredible. So, we appreciate the opportunity to work with you and the SWAT League.
Well, we appreciate you guys and everything that you are doing to help us, whether it's with SWAT League itself, or certainly with the organizations that I am used as a resource to help them in some way, shape, or form. And I know that it has made the world of difference for each of those organizations as well to be a resource. And I believe, like I said before, collaboration is key for all things. So.
One thing is, the sky's the limit when it comes to creativity on how this AI can be used and how it can be trained. It literally can be trained for anything. But because we are a true deep learning neural network, we've trained it to watch for physical security and safety threats. And, as we learn a little bit more about how to best go out and find some of these children, we can adapt the system, we can massage it and make it even more effective than what we are right now. So the sky's the limit. Hope the intent is to go out and help identify and recover and basically save, I guess, some of these people that have been trafficked that really have no way to to escape without help.
Yeah. And
people actually change with our AI, because it is with our facial. Our engineers did a test. They took 10-year-old photos of themselves and input that into the system, 10-year-old photos. And based on those 10-year-old photos, when they stepped foot in front of any of our camera views, it immediately identified, they did a test on 4 of them, and it identified all 4 immediately. Again, based on 10-year-old photos, because we do change, even where the human eye might not recognize somebody, after a number of years, or from, the way that their face has changed, the AI is able to pick that up, and we can identify people uniquely. And again, we're not trying to go out and we're not trying to use anything for marketing purposes. We don't sell anything. We don't log, store, record. We're literally just monitoring it in real time. And once that person steps out of view of that camera, they're gone forever. They're gone. So just like somebody steps out of view of your eye, they're gone.
One of the other neat things that we thought about when we were developing the technology with you guys for the safety code was that what we know currently is that 100% of the future demand for trafficking, for exploitation, sits in our classrooms as children. And if we can get in and speak to those children and give them the real information about, the who, what, where, when, and how aspects, then we might be able to change a mind. And if you change the mind of the demand, then there's no need for the supply. And so ultimately what our partnerships and hopes are is that one day there won't be a need for that supply and we'll be out of business, and that'll be great, for all of us on this end. But that's the ultimate idea.
One thing that we haven't talked much about, Dr. Mel, is the Bluebee safety code itself and how that program works. So maybe do you want to give a quick overview of how that functions?
Absolutely. So you can go to our website, which is www.swatleague.com and .org. And in the right hand corner, there is a protect your family icon. If you go to and click on that icon, then there's a video that a few of our partners put together that explains the system and walks you through the steps because it's free. You can get it from our website, or if you have children and your children attend one of the schools that free international Say Something assemblies is going on in, then you'll get it for free from the Say Something assembly as well. But the code itself that they talk about inside the curriculum is a code that you can give to your family. It's unique to every single person and family alike, and you teach it to your child. And God forbid, should they ever come up missing for any reason, that data is stored in a separate secure location, and the National Missing and Exploited Children, the NCMEC, National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, they have access to that information. And so, should your child ever come up missing, then they are able to start a search for that child based on that information that's stored. But your child should, when that child comes, up in an area, back up in an area like a restaurant or a hotel or, a business that has also been trained by us to recognize that code, then should that child walk by and spit that code out to someone, then that person would recognize, hey, that's a code that I'm hearing, that I need to contact the NCMEC and let them know that I just saw this child. And that way you're not engaging with the child, therefore you're not putting that child in danger. You're not engaging with the trafficker, who we know is somewhere in the vicinity, within probably 25 to 50 yards of that child. So you're not engaging there and putting yourself in danger. On our website, there is plenty of information around the business of human trafficking, as well as, excuse me, as well as information on, what you should do and what you shouldn't do in situations where you believe there might be an issue. So at any rate, that I think explains the safety code itself.
So when that child does identify themselves in a covert way using that safety code, then essentially in the real-time crime going on, you can be proactive about it, and law enforcement can know, okay, this was 10 minutes ago or 30 minutes ago, this is where they were located, this is who it is, everything about them. So now we can draw a perimeter and we can start searching in that, how far could they have gotten in 30 minutes?
That is correct.
So
that is correct.
no, that's an exciting way of using technology to just help.
Absolutely.
So
thank you very much, Kris. Thank you very much, Dr. Mel. Unfortunately, we don't have any questions. So if we are done, we can finish up.
Okay. All right, great.
Okay.
Thank you.
well, thanks for your time, everyone.
Thank you for yours also.